All right, and my online people can see the small window, right? Right.
Yeah, we can click on it and we can enlarge it.
And you can make it bigger yourself, but for me,
Yeah.
for the classroom, they're stuck with the little view of the, which is okay. I'll ask my IT people to try to figure it out for the upcoming weeks. All right. So as I said, what I have here is my script and the boy who drew cats. And I just started, and I'm sorry that the exposure isn't really that great either. On the zoom, so now I'm fighting with like an inferior camera. All right, so what this says is exterior day farm, wide shot, establishing shot, basically the same kind of thing. But I'm putting it on there to remind you. It's an establishing shot, but it's wide. And so I'm gonna draw like a larger background. All right, then I see people working. This could be all part of the same shop. Dad, two brothers, and a boy indented a little bit because these are my character designs. The boy is drawing. Dad approaches, conversation. And I have this in brackets right here because this might be a sequence of shots when they're talking to each other. And we'll set this up very in a similar way that I did with my coffee shop up there on the board, where I might draw a tree, and the boy is going to be sitting there in a tree, and the dad's like, "You should be working. I don't want to be working. You know, I just want to draw. I don't want to be a farmer, Dad." You know, they might have some kind of argument. All right. So having said that, the conversation ends by the dad is going to send him to the monastery. He has to go home first, and he has to pack, and then he has to leave, and he sees mom and dad, and they see him off. Dad gives him a letter to give to the monk. All right, then the active verbs here are he walks, and I have an ellipsis here because this can be the journey. There could be a sequence of shots in this one as well, where he's passing a farm, another farm, or a wooded area, animals, brooks, trees, all kinds of things that happen in this walk. And that's why I put the little box out here on the left. All right, then he arrives. He gives the monk the letter. The monk lectures him, and then the monk goes about his business and he leaves. The boy starts to draw. Instead of doing the work the monk just told him to do, he starts to draw. And in our story, remember that he basically ruins the books. He draws in the margins, he draws on the fly pages, he draws everywhere. And then the monk returns and the monk gets mad, so he scolds the boy. And the boy's name is Billy. And he gives him directions. He said, you know, this isn't going to work out. Basically, you have to go home. You know, so the monk sent him home with the directions to stay to the small because it was getting late. And the whole idea of the story is to stay to the small because there's creatures out there. So what he means by the idea of the story of stay to the small is make sure you're not in the wide open spaces. And then so he gives them a cautionary tale related to staying to the small, and then he leaves. The boy leaves. But he goes the other way. So he goes to the end of the path and then he goes the other way and he finds the empty monastery and he begins to draw on all the walls. Cats everywhere. Cats, cats, cats. Big cats, little cats. Tigers, lions, pumas. And then the sun starts to set and he remembers what the monk had said about staying to the small. So he finds a cabinet to sleep in. This is just taken from the traditional Japanese fairy tale. So he finds a place to sleep. He closes his eyes, and with a close-up of his eyes, we can see the fight in the dark. And so this is the cartoon thing where we don't see the goblin rat attacking the cats. We don't see any of that. We see the boy, his eyes darting to the left and to the right. And it's just that little animation trick where you could reuse whole scenes just to go, you know, oh my God. So it's just the eyes moving in the dark. All right, then the morning happens and he emerges as the hero. So if you remember the story, There's blood on all the drawings of the cats, and the goblin rat is real, and he's dead in the middle of the open space. And out a young boy comes to the door and notices that the goblin rat is dead, and that the boy is there with his crayons and his paintbrushes, and he becomes the hero. So, this is my script, right? Everyone okay with that? And I can scan this and put it on Canvas. Is this your phone?
Oh,
Or is it my phone?
That's mine.
That's my phone, no.
No.
Is it the boy's eyes or is
Yes.
it the multiple eyes?
No, just the boys. Just the boys' eyes. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to set my grid out here. And I'm going to turn my bottom light on and just make a couple of suggestions. What you can do is that this, I remind myself, Lori, did I put the PDF of this up in the classroom?
No, I didn't see.
I'll put this in the classroom too.
Thank you.
All right, and then the other note was here. I made the PDF of the kitchenette. Okay. All right. So the best way to approach this is I have a stack of empty paper, just blank 8.5 by 11 printer paper. Of course, in my day, we called it typing paper because you stuffed it into a typewriter. But these days, it's a printer. All right, so if I have the backlight turned on, you can see right through it. So you should be able to see in my window, I can pick any of these, right? I can pick any of these. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my light out because I don't wanna actually do the framing yet. But what I wanna do right here is just pick a area on the board, and I have my script over here, I can see it, is that I'm gonna pick this larger one. And I don't even know what it is. I'm just gonna kind of trace it lightly right through the paper. I'm going to make myself a general note for you all as well. Again, I'm using the Colorase Prismacolor Colorase. This is the purple. I love the purple. You can find them on Amazon. They're like 90 cents a piece. Buy them 12 for $10 for the red one. Okay, I'm going to remind all of you that in this area are cinematic thirds. And so I have focal points that are here. I'm going to also draw a square in the corner to remind all of you to stay away from the edges. That's the action safe area. And then another set of crosshairs to stay title safe. So that when these two vertical and horizontal lines cross, we have 4 focal points here and a focal point in the middle. Typically, you would draw a horizon right at the cinematic third horizontal. So having said that, this is just my title card. Slugging the board, I'm always going to put my panel numbers in the upper left. So this is 001. And at this point, again, I apologize for this little webcam. It's absolutely not the best. But that's why we were trying so hard to make it full screen, because then the resolution would be better. All right. In the upper right-hand corner for the slug, this is your shot number. So for here, this is just going to be title. In the bottom left, this is screen direction. And in the bottom right is time. And remember that in your textbook, the one I recommended, but not required, and in this one, which someone could borrow if they wanted to follow along, that often authors will call this the slug, just the timing. And the timing can be in seconds or in frames. All right, so The Boy Who Drew Cats. And so this is my title shot, right? Everyone okay? All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this over a little bit, and I'm gonna check to make sure you can still see it in the monitor. All right, so now I'm gonna look at my script, and my script says exterior day farm. And I don't know if I'm gonna cross dissolve between the title card and my establishing shot yet. But I'm not gonna draw the edges of this border. I can see that my title card is up here. I've got enough room to draw. And I'm just gonna kind of imagine that the horizon is here. So I'm gonna draw through the story frame. And I'm going to think, oh, there's this vanishing point in the middle. I'm just gonna draw a really quick grid, a perspective grid. Then I'm gonna give this farm some life. I'm gonna give it a couple of hills, another hill over here. Maybe there's a tree that's up in the corner up here. I'm just gonna block this in a little bit. Remember that there's perspective in the sky. All right, and then paying attention to the horizon, I'm gonna draw the farmer's house, just as a little box. Put a roof on it. You can elaborate on it by drawing a little more. Maybe there's a tree back there. All right. So then what I want here is right near this left focal point is a tree that is closer to us. And I'm just gonna kind of give it this, and I'm gonna kind of head, line of action, and the boy is just sitting there. So he's on the left, lower left focal point. And this is good enough for your gesture. So on the board up there, I wrote week 4 demo, thumbs, and line of action. And this is our thumb, even though this is bigger than a thumbnail right here. It's still head, line of action, and the boy is just sitting there. Okay, so then what I'm going to figure out here is that I want so this house is like in between the right, upper right and upper left focal points. And I didn't draw it very dark, but what I can do is I can imagine that Dad is going to be there somewhere. So I want Dad to be in this open space right here. A lot of times when you're doing this kind of thinking, going from your script to the visual, you have to make sure that your negative space is important. So if I started to draw Dad right here, he would be in front of the house, and the negative space would be interrupted by that. If I drew Dad right here, that might work out fine. So I'm gonna erase this just a little bit. And so I'm gonna give Dad a head and a little curve of a line of action. He's just kind of standing there. He's got his hat on, and he's got a hoe or a rake or something. So that's Dad. Now here in my notes, I have 2 brothers. And so I can see that there might be a brother over here in the background. And he's gonna be like, he's got a pick, head, line of action, arms, and he's picking. So he's got up and down action in this open space. And then owing to the perspective, maybe there's another brother back here, really small, and he's got like another farm device. I don't know what it is. It's some farm device. I don't know what it is. All right, so wheelbarrow maybe. A lawnmower or a tractor. All right, so, and I'm looking at maybe some bushes near the house. Maybe there's a pathway, a road or something. All right, so this is the tree. This is the near tree. And so Billy's on the focal point over here. And this is Farmer Dad. And again, so when I'm doing this for my thumb, this is going to be panel 002. This is shot 1, SH01_1. And then the camera direction is going to just write establishing shot. So in my boards here, I'm going to go back to my script, and I just have written exterior, establishing shot, wide shot, people working, 2 dad brothers. So I've got all of this covered right here. Like all of this first quarter of the script taken care of just right here. I can make notes here that of what the actions are doing, that this boy is picking or, you know, whatever they're doing. I can make notes for each one of these characters because this, as an establishing shot, can last 10 seconds. This can be 240 frames. In films, in short films, you can spend a lot of time on your establishing shot. You can spend 30 seconds. The establishing shot for Pinocchio was amazing. It was 35 seconds or something, and the camera just moved and went all over. It was beautiful. It's absolutely astonishing. By the way, there's like 4 Pinocchio movies coming out this year. Not just the one I mentioned for Guillermo del Toro. There's like, Disney's doing one with Tom Hanks. Is it Tom Hanks or is it Tom goddamn Hanks?
The live action, I think he's coming out today or tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a French one and there's another Italian one.
Oh yeah,
Remember,
the French one was.
there's 4 of them. And then my other son said that there's a game too, and then there's a TV series that is continual. It's Pinocchio fever right now.
I feel like you shouldn't be making a live action version of Joe.
Well, the Roberto Benigni one was brilliant. If you have a chance to watch Pinocchio, it's called Pinocchio with Roberto Benigni. It's brilliant.
Is that the old Disney one that was live action?
No, it's I forget the director. It's an independent Italian film, but Roberto Benigni's live action, and the boy is live action too. But he's got like a rubber face, and the boy doesn't really have to act very because he's supposed to be wood. But it's really good. That one's really sweet. It's really good. Okay, so this is my first page. Everyone okay? A lot of times what I'll do is in the lower right hand of the page, I'll just write 1 and circle it. That'll be my page 1. All right, I'll set this aside. And I'm going to come back to here, and then I'm going to go back to my thumbnails here. And I have this listed for you. And I'm going to look at my script. Dad is approaching. So if I need to, I can take this panel right here. And I'm turning my bottom light on because I want to show you the reason why I drew it like I did. Actually, let me turn my light back on again. So the reason why I did it like this was because this line right here might not be just one clump of leaves. They might be so close to the camera that it's actually giant leaves and medium-sized leaves. Like this, it's just like the leaves of a tree that are really close to the camera. And this is the tree that Billy's sitting under, so the clumps of the leaves of trees can look like that. So those leaves are quite a bit smaller, and there's holes in the tree. You know, there might even be a branch out here with another little clump like that. Okay, so I'm going left here. I'm going left, and so that this hill might look like this, and there might be something over here. There might be another hill. And also, because this is my vanishing point to the right, I also might have another vanishing point over here and create 2-point perspective. Just very simple 2-point perspective. And the reason why I'm mentioning this to you, and I'm going to put curved lines for the hill, is because I can start by saying, hey, you know what, over here, and I'll just keep this simple with another tree, and maybe there's a couple of birds sitting on the tree over here. So that what I'm planning on here is, and let me find a good color. My green will work. Orange is better. So underneath this, what I can look at here is that maybe I start right here by saying that this is the actual first shot. And so this is all shot 2, or panel 2, but I'm going to do a camera move over this. Remember, this is why I wanted to talk about this today. And we didn't have this in the script, and this is why I'm doing the demo for you right now. It's that we do a cross dissolve. So we go from the title card, and then I make a note up here to do DX, 2 seconds. Remember that DX means cross dissolve. So we're going from 100% exposure from the title card to 0, and then 0% exposure on the establishing shot to 100%. And we can figure out if we're going to do a fade up, a fade down, fade up, or a cross dissolve. And I'll just redo that little bit for you using these notes. I think I put it here. So this is just a review that if I fade from 100% exposure to 0% exposure, that's a fade down. If I go from 0% exposure to 100%, that's a fade up. But if I do them at the same time, if I go from 100% to 0 and 0 to 100% at the exact same time, this is a double exposure, or DX. And you can see that there's 2 X's, double X. Everyone see that? And I can choose that later. I can choose that later. I'm just going to put DX 2 seconds. And I can change that later too. All right, so underneath here, I'm going to start with these birds. And maybe I make a note that the birds are sitting there and they fly away. And they fly away over here. So now I'm going to get these birds to fly. And maybe they fly through this whole shot. So they're flying here. And they're going to fly together, just roughing them in. And they fly right through the shot. And I don't have to draw arrows if I don't want to. I can just write position A, position B. I can do all that if I want to. But basically, I start with those birds in a shot like that. And then when I move over to this position, my camera starts coming out a little wider. I'm going to keep the top right in line with it just for a second. Let me do this. This is what my final shot was about right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put little crosshairs right where the corner was, close, so that I know where I'm going to. So if my camera starts here, it's going to have to go to this big green space. And now I'm going to just follow these birds. And I can always change this later. We're just doing thumbnails. Now I'm going to follow these birds, and the camera gets bigger. And I'm changing colors so that I can see what I'm thinking. The camera's getting wider and is following the birds. And I've got one more color. And now we can start to see Billy. All right, I'm going to just put it here. And then I'm going to do the final one right here. Now I'm going to pay a little closer attention to where I drew this because I think it was actually down a little bit. All right, and that one's right here. All right, so what I've got is a thumbnail for a camera move on this establishing shot. The camera starts out close. Technically what you would do is you would pick another different color. And I've got a darker green. And I draw arrows from one corner to the other, and one corner to the other, and one corner up. And this is just a very simple move. So the camera pans from left to right until it ends with the shot establishing. So this is just really simple. This camera could have tilted, it could have curved, but this tells me that I'm going to draw a very big background and I'm going to do a camera move over it. This is all still panel number 2 and shot number 1, but that's all this 10 seconds. Okay? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to get my purple pencil back, and I'm going to pick one of these where I'm going to figure out what size I want my thumbnails. So if I'm looking at this template, you know, this one's good. I'm going to pick the 4th one. So right here, I'm going to put a little asterisk just to remind myself I'm using that one. Again, with blank paper and not drawing anything. I look at my script and I see the dad approaches. So with this one, just in thumbnail, I'm going to draw the horizon through the 3rd. I'm going to copy what I see. Just quickly, right here, through the 3rd. This is the left cinematic, the tree. There's Billy. My vanishing point is like dead in the middle. Again, really quick with the perspective and the perspective in the sky. In this one, this is going to be, this is still shot 1. But this is panel 3, 003. And then I could do my screen direction later. All right, and then I'm just gonna tuck in the house. So the house is right here. I'm gonna draw in that tree. I'm gonna draw this tree. And Dad was right here. So now Dad is gonna come up. And so now I'm gonna have Dad come up into this negative space right here. Again, head, line of action, body, and I'm just gonna get a walking pose. Maybe Dad has the pitchfork over his shoulder now. All right, so with this one, I'm okay with this. And again, I'm establishing that I wanted these little birds to go out of the shot. So they're gonna be over here. I can put a little arrow over that way. And I like this composition. The dad is approaching, Billy is here. It's just a thumbnail, it's just a rough. I'm drawing very gesturally. What I wanna do now is I wanna lock in the corners. So I'm just gonna draw little crosses where the corners are. I don't need to trace the whole thing, just little crosses. Panel 3. Remember, panel 1 was our title card. So now I slide my blank piece of paper over, and if I stop right here and I'm really careful, I might be able to get a 3rd panel over here. All right, I can leave this here so I can see what my background is looking like. And then I do my panel 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is try panel 004. I'm looking at my script, conversation with Dad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the horizon line. Again, just the vanishing point, the perspective. You know, at this point, everyone understands that you don't need to draw the entire background over and over again. But if you just got the trees, that'll tell you where the negative space is. So here, and now Dad has come up to Billy. So draw the head, line of action for Billy sitting. Got his book, he's drawing. And now Dad is big in this open negative space here. Head, line of action, body, and now Dad is standing tall. He's got the pitchfork, and he's got his hands up on his shoulders, his hips, and they're talking. This is good. All right, tree. All right, then I can do the crosshairs for the corner. This is panel 4. Again, this is still shot 1. Now I come over to here, and I'm going to think for just a second. Remember that it might take me an hour and a half to do all of these actions, right? It's taken us longer because of technical difficulties with our computers here. But we've got all this stuff to go through here. What might work for us, though, is if I just do this and I say, I'm going to take this shot right here. And I want to express that I want to do more of a enlightenment with Dad and Billy talking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this thumbnail over here. And I'm going to go like that and say, I'm going to do another camera move on shot 1. So right now, even though it's still panel 4, I'm going to go from this full-size thumbnail. And at this point, I'm just going to draw the line in really lightly. And I'm going to take my orange, and there's another camera move here. So it's going to go from this to this. Because this is shot 1, that's how elaborate it started out small, it got bigger. This is our main establishing shot. Now we see Dad walking over, and now we see this. So this helps me with this next thumbnail here. But I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to skip this thumbnail right here because I want it down here, because now we're going to do a little conversation. Dad and Billy are going to talk. At this point, just for clarity, I can draw in the rough panel size, which is really rough. You can keep it lined up if you want. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my graphite pen, and I'm going to draw the little key for you that if I have the table, the coffee, this is Billy over here, this is going to be Dad over here. So I can write Billy and Dad, you know, so my main camera is here and my side cameras over here and my side cameras over here. What this does is it gives you your line of action. And this is where you can start relying on your map, right? So in this conversation, this is going to be the map for our conversation. Because I'm still working on this, what I can do here is I can say, I've left this wide open space here intentionally so that when I go from my thumbnails to my final boards, I can say, here's the tree. I'm going to put a crosshair for where the trunk is. I can put a B for Billy right underneath it. I can say, this is this road, this pathway. Dad is over here. The house is over here. There's a tree on the house. Another part of the kitchen, a tree. There's one brother working over here. So this is brother C. Dad is over here. And the brother D is way in the background over here. All right, so at that point, I can even start drawing trees that are far away. And so this is my map for the establishing. And it's okay to start thinking about just what your establishing shot is, widening it out so that you can think about an elaborate camera move over it, and then doing your map. Because you do have some negative space here. You have some negative space here. And actually, because your camera move is moving over here, you can populate this whole map out here. You can say, maybe there's a silo here. Make a little key for yourself. Maybe there's 2 of them right next to each other, or that there's some farm equipment. And so this map becomes important for you. This map becomes important for you to know where things are in your shot, but it also becomes important for you to know where your 180-degree line is. Your line of action, remember we talked about this, that the 180-degree rule and the line of action are basically the same thing. It's right in the back, it's fine. All right, so now going to this map, we're gonna have Billy and Dad talking to each other. And we're gonna use this little key right here to do a series of dialogue. Billy, you should be working. You know, and then you can go back to your script right here and figure out what you want this conversation to be. You can say, you can write the conversation right here. Billy, you should be working. Dad, I want to draw. All right, that's it. I'm done with you. You're off to the monastery. You could keep it just that simple. And I would advise you keeping it just that simple because you really don't want to draw lots of mouth shapes. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use, again, we're using this panel to keep our words consistent. And we're just going to look at this key in the background for Billy and Dad talking. We're going to look at this little thumbnail right here so that I can get this shot established. So I can see on my paper here that I've got enough room for a row of panels here and another one below it. So I'm just going to draw the corners really quickly. Now I can see that in this panel, the horizon is right on the bottom. So I'm not going to draw the horizon. I'm going to draw the tree. The tree looks like it's on the third. It's on the cinematic third, just really lightly. I can see that the leaves of the tree are up here. Billy, I only see the head. And now Dad is here. So Billy's on the lower left cinematic third, and Dad, head, line of action, body, and he's on the upper right cinematic third. This is panel 5. And shot 2. This is a cut. So whenever you go to a different shot, it's a cut. So you can just write cut right here. Remember, we talked about tons of different cuts. This is a straight cut. We're going to cut right to here. Because Billy and Dad are different enough here, it's like a match cut. They're in basically the exact same place. So it's just a match cut. And you can make that in your directorial notes right here. It's a match cut. All right, so then you can have your dialogue, whatever they're going to say to each other. You can line these two up. And again, I'm just going to do the crosshairs really quickly. And that was this front camera. So Dad starts talking here. So if Dad's talking, I'm going to use this camera. What does this camera see? Now Dad is on the right. So now Dad is going to be on the right. There's his hat. There's his head. There's his line of action. Just draw right through the storyboard panel. Draw his eye line, his nose line. He's angry. You can start putting in some facial expressions, his ear, top of his head. All right, and this is panel 6. This is shot 3. It's just Dad, right? And you can put in the dialogue right underneath it if you want. Let's do this really quickly. All right. And he's gonna talk, Billy, why aren't you working? So now I'm gonna come back over here. I'm gonna put in the crosshairs really quickly. I'm gonna look at my key. This is the camera now. This is this right camera. The camera sees Billy and it's looking down. It's from Dad's POV. So you can come into the camera directions and write POV for point of view. This is panel 7. This is going to be shot 4. This is Billy now. What does this camera see? It sees Dad looking down at Billy. And so he's on the left. Remember our key, that little thing I drew up there for you. Billy's going to be on the left. So he's going to be here. Put him on the lower left. Head, line of action. The tree, sitting next to the tree. So there's going to be this tree. Spend a few minutes thinking about what that shot looks like. He's looking down, then the horizon is going to be up here somewhere. We'll go back to your main establishing shot. You might see the little rolling hills or something. It's just a thumbnail. Lock it in. And again with the dialogue. It's going to be just really quick dialogue, right? This is panel 7. We come down here to panel 8. All right, and I haven't looked up here in 20 minutes. So is everyone okay with what I'm doing? See how I'm working here? Again, you can work this with pencil. You can work this digitally. It's really the same process. All right, so here I'm going to do crosshairs. This is panel 8, 008. And I'm keeping it 00 because I think I'm gonna go over, I might not go over 100 panels. I might not go, but at least I'll have it there. All right, so now I go back to my script. This is finishing the conversation. Now we're gonna go back to the dad. And so this is a cut again. So we're going from shot 2 to shot 3, right? Cut. Shot 3 to shot 4, cut. Shot 4 to shot 5, cut. And now we're going back to dad, but I want a wider shot of dad. So I'm just gonna study this for a moment. Head, line of action. I'm gonna kind of get out of my chair and go, what does this shot look like? You know, go home. Probably like that. Go home. You know, I'm done. I'm sick of it. Go talk to your mother. You're going to the monastery. So I kind of look at this pose. You know, maybe he does have his hoe on the other side. He switches it. You know, so think about this pose. Do the pose. Get out of your chair. Act out this pose. You know, put your hands, your legs together, arms. You know, or maybe it's a little bit more. You know, go home. What do you want? As the artist, as the animator, as the storyboard artist, act out this pose. Is it like this? Is it really stern? Is it more cartoony? Is he going to attack him first? No, don't do that. All right, but at this point, you should be out of your chair. You should be thinking to yourself, what is going on in my shot? All right. So what I'm going to pick here is I'm going to let my pencil pick for me.
You want to exaggerate the pose too, right? When you pose like that, you also want to make it exaggerated so it reads very clearly what is happening.
The pose itself has to have a good silhouette. You know, if you're going to be cartoony about it, then study that pose. That's what I'm telling you. Is don't just draw a silly pose, study the pose and draw it. So for here, what I'm going to do is because we're mimicking this shot here, but our camera's a little farther away. And now dad is this kind of, he's got his hat. In this pose, he had his left arm on his hip. And so I can do two things here. I can kind of study this. And I can say, what does this pose look like here? Usually, you don't have to erase, but I could put two poses in one camera, one storyboard panel, where I have his hand is here, and then he's going to go, you're going to the monastery. I can either do it this way, or I can do it this way. And like I said last week, one really authentic way to do this is to either trace this pose back so you get it exactly in the same place, or just draw it again. On the cinematic third, line of action, there's his body, his one arm is up on his waist, and then he's going to point, you're going to the monastery. Now I draw an arrow up here. There's his farmer's hat. And so this is panel 9. And with these two panels, I've kind of left out the background, but I can work that in. I can figure out from my map, if dad walks over from here to here, and my camera is right here, we might see the farmhouse in the background. So look at so you just put that in there. I was going to say, you're going to the monastery. And this might be all you need for this pose. This also gives you the idea of drawing dad so that he's really in an emphatic posture here. So head, line of action, his weight, it's pointing right there. So this is not a cut. So this is shot 5, and this is still shot 5. All right, and then we're going to cut back to here, and we can pause after this panel. But now I'm going to come back to the shot of Billy. and we're gonna look at our main establishing shot again. And he's gonna be sitting. So once again, you can kind of picture yourself sitting next to the tree, getting yelled at by dad. And then he's gonna stand up, gather his book, and go to walk away. So it's up to you. This is what I mean about you as a storyboard artist driving the story, is that you have to describe to everyone how you want Billy to stand up. How do you want, is he really mad? Is he really frustrated? Is he embarrassed? And all of that can happen in this shot here. So if this shot right here of Billy standing up is important to you, then just get a new piece of paper. You don't have to use this piece right here. You know, if at all, you can do a continuation of shot 9, panel 10 of a change of expression of dad, where he's just like going from mad to like frustrated. So you could just write it in your directorial notes. You say he's going from, he was originally mad at Billy for not doing any farm work, and then he's frustrated with him, and now he's upset that he's actually sending his third son away. You could write those emotional notes in the story direction too. You can leave that open. Again, this is page 2. And I'll come over to here. This is page 3. And again, we're using this as our story here. And we are here in the script. We are right here, just about halfway, a third. And so I'm just going to set this so I can see it. I'll do the corners. And again, one of the reasons why I like using these colorized pencils, because I haven't sharpened this. 20 minutes, I just keep going and going and going with it. I could just turn it, go, go, go. All right, so I go back to this shot here of what Billy looked like. And this is going to be just, the camera's going to widen out a little bit. So what I can do is I can think about this, that I only see his head right here. You know, and I'm not going to do any character design yet, but if he moves down to pick up his books and then stands up, the picture of the framing might be a little funny right here. It might be a little unusual. So what I might do is I might do a different camera on here. So I'm going to just kind of imagine that the tree is here, and Billy is going to start in this pose. He's sitting. So this is panel 10, 010, shot 6. And you can just block it in quickly. You can go back and do the backgrounds on it if you need to. And then you can do the action. Do the progression of the action. Again, a lot of times if I'm wanting to be precise about this, I'll take time and draw this tree out and figure out where the background is, or if I can see a brother over here, or if I can see a shoulder of dad, right? And I can go back in here and just do him in silhouette. And I can spend some time on this and then trace back all the other panels that the action is going to be repeated in 011. This is still shot 6. And I'm just going to copy it, retrace it. So the arrow would be Billy comes down, he gathers his books. So here he's stood up already. He's gathering his books. His butts come up, background, dad, shoulders, silhouette. Side of the pencil helps sharpen your pencil so you don't have to go to your sharpener. All right, corners, panel 12, background, head, neck, shoulders, arm, dad, and then Billy stands up. Head, line of action, body, and then again, act this out. he's dejected, you know, his dad is mad at him. It's his fault. So he's embarrassed and he's mad, so he'll act it out. So it's not, he's not gonna be alert, he's gonna be kind of slumped over a little bit. Oh man, I screwed up big time here, I'm getting sent away. So head, line of action is more sulky. I'm not capturing the pose yet. Head, line of action. Head books are straight down, just something like that. Again, these are just thumbs. This is still shot 6. And you can do another progression. You can do 3 or 4 poses in there where he's changing his attitude from, you know, surprised by what his dad has just told him to now he's chagrined. You can do like a whole bunch of different transitions in there. All right, and so you can leave this part of the paper open. You can just say, make a mental note for yourself that you're gonna do a series of transition poses there before he actually goes home. So then I'm gonna come down here, and these are the corners. I'm gonna just do this one with this. And for this one, I'm not gonna put a panel number yet because I don't know what I'm doing here yet, but I'm gonna go back to my map. So Billy is here under the tree. Dad has walked over, yelled at him. Now Billy is gonna walk from here to the house. So just on my map, my 180 is here. I wanna use like this kind of camera. I know I want like a side view right here. And I know I want this camera, but basically I wanna see Dad first. So I want this camera. All right, so having said that, remember that with our key, Dad has always been on the right, Billy has been on the left. And so technically what you would want to do is keep Dad here. So this is Billy standing up. You could jump to the chase and say panel 13, 14, 15, and this is going to be panel 16. And then now you're going to give there's going to be a cut here, right there. So this is Dad has turned away, head, line of action, shoulders. He's looking away from us right now. And so the tree is like off to the left. And now we can see that Billy is walking away dejected. All right, so you get the idea here? So then you just keep building it. I'm spending moments telling you what I would normally just be thinking. Composing the shot using blank pieces of paper, a quick little template, my script. These are just the thumbs. Yes, Joseph.
So it's basically like thinking about the emotions and the transitions between the emotions and how that translates to
And you're getting them just
what a
in
character looks like.
just in the gestures, just the overall posture. Because you're only drawing this big. If you're drawing bigger boards, you have a lot more detail. It would be slower. But right now, I've gone through 12 story panels here fairly quickly. You know, if I was doing this at my studio pace, this would be 10 minutes. But I'm going slow enough, so I'm telling you everything that I'm doing, right? But yeah, you want to capture just the general pose because you go from thumbnails to boards. You draw them again.
You want to, you want to get the original emotion, and then you want to expand upon it after you've gotten down the thinking. So it takes a lot of energy to write down the exact. It's like creating a piece. You want to get the general shape first, the general idea, and then you want to work on the fine details.
Yeah.
Because if you work on the fine details first, then the details from the other side will look completely different from the details
Or you also might change your mind.
Huh?
If you spend time detailing a pose of the face and emotions and the posture, the gesture, you might realize that in the sequence, you change your mind and say, oh, I want him to be really angry at that point. Instead
Yeah.
of Billy being dejected, maybe he wants to fight back with Dad.
It's like, what is it? It's like cement. You want to like form it into what you want first, and then once it sets. Because if you start at one spot, and then that cement hardens and the rest is flowing, it's kind of weird to. You want it all to be forming at the same time.
Exactly. But remember too, that with you, and I have you all did your story, your little script simply enough for 10 points, because now that you see this process, you can change it. You probably should, you probably will. What I'm thinking here is that from the Hollywood, I don't want to say adage, but if a script is a 1 page long, that's about 45 seconds. This story actually comes out to like 3.5 or 4 minutes. So this script right here should actually be 3 or 4 pages long. But what I wanted to do is just use part of it to show you the process, to show you how to go from the script, using the map, using your establishing shots, expanding on the establishing shot, doing a camera move, how to do cuts, how to do thumbnails in a good way so that you're not lost, so that you haven't wasted a huge amount of time, so that you can just scrap everything and redo everything because it only took you an hour. You went through 14 or 15 story panels that are really truly only took you an hour. And if you're happy with what you've got, then you can go back and put a little details in there, kind of move it, get it moving. But right now, what I'd like you to do is take a break. So everyone take a break. Even on my Zoom people, take a break.
Okay.
Take a break.
Were you asleep?
That's the.
And I'm just going to leave it like this because Anna wanted me to do that. And then, are you thinking your script is okay? You want to redo it? How could they answer to both of those be no?
Because my script isn't where I want it to be. I want to fix it.
All right, I'll help you with it in just a bit. Okay? All right, so we left off at this point where Billy is dejected and walking away. But what I think that I would like to do is just kind of take a look at one of these poses here. And, no, let's just, I'm going to do 2 things. So let me show you an example of what I call rubbing down your drawing. So I don't think I want to rub down this drawing. Rubbing down a drawing means that you're adding detail to it. So I'm not erasing, I'm just going to rub. And at this point, I would usually go from purple to violet, but I don't think I have my violet with me. So I'll try to do this with the terracotta. All right, so in this sequence here, I've got, we catch up to where we were. Farmer comes over and he yells at Billy. All right, so panel 5 needs a little bit of rubbing down. So what I'm going to do here is head, and Billy's and Dad's eyes should be meeting each other, which means that Billy's head is kind of a funky shape. It should be more like this. Again, without erasing too much, I could just take a little bit of the graphite off. I'm going to kind of redirect the oval here. Again, it's still just a gesture, but I'm going to put the eye line like this, and like this, which locates his nose here and his eyes here. And maybe I want to get some eyebrows in there. Maybe kind of a worried mouth. Maybe a little pupils in there. And make sure he's looking at Dad. Get his ear in there. And then when I'm doing this, I'm always thinking to myself, the lines across the middle of a head locate the eyes. If you look around at normal, regular people, our eyes are generally in the middle of our face. You know, head, hat, hair, our eyes are usually in the middle. It's a good place to start. And the ears are just below that line. So without having like a detailed model sheet here, I can give Billy his hair just to suggest it. His neck goes backwards, and I can just kind of rub that drawing down a little bit. I'm gonna, again, pay attention to silhouette. If the tree is right there, I can let it go right down the middle of his form. And this, according to my shot work here, was the leaves of the tree, but I can change my mind in this cut to say that maybe the leaves are a little too high for us to see right now. What we might see is the other side of the tree and some detailing on the bark of the tree, which is going to show up on the left and right side of the tree. You don't want to show, you don't have to show too much detail. Draw Billy darker than the thing that he's in front of. And then look at your map, look at your establishing shot. There was a hill back there. Pay attention to your silhouette. Now draw a farmer, dad, head, eye lines, backwards neck, goes this way. So you have to feel like what he's doing. So you might want to change this pose a little bit so that he's leaning more emphatically into Billy. So head, line of action, shoulders, eye lines. And then in this shot, his shoulder was up here. Let it just go out of the camera. And this arm is the one he's going to be gesturing with. So this is okay. Farmer's got a bigger hat. Again with the eye lines. He's angry, so get his eyebrows, his eyes. You know, a concerned parental look on his mouth, his ear. You can put a little direction area that his hand is coming up, his neckline, and you're still just drawing a thumb. You're still just drawing a gesture. All right, and then always think about silhouette. So there's a hill in the background that was all on the farm, background, perspective, anything else in this area. You might see the other brother, the one that was doing the pickaxe work, you know, with the act of him still being in the upper position, you can change that so that now he's picking something up. So now he's reaching over and picking something up. That's the brother number one. All right, then we might see a little bit of the farmhouse just over on the right. So what I'm getting at here is that you compose this shot. You drew it first with just the corners, and now you're kind of tightening it up a little. You're rubbing it down. Now you're trying not to erase. You're just getting an idea what these thumbnails look like. You're also paying attention to silhouette so that everything has its own space, and they're using proper perspective. In this, you have a background, a midground, and a foreground element, even though it's a thumbnail. All right, so for this one, now we've got Dad coming back up again. He's raising his head up. So this was a change of camera. So a little bit of mouth gesture, His eyes are still a little bit concerned and angry, nose, ear, his hair. He's raising up. What is behind him? Look at your map. We can detail this map. The house might be down here. It'd be okay to just leave it. If this is Billy's POV, right? This is Billy's POV. He could be looking more directly at the camera, but this is okay too. That we might not see anything at all. If we go back to our map, we don't see or place in here where we could draw clouds. You know, we don't see these birds anymore. They're gone away. We don't see, if we see clouds back here, if we could just work in some little clouds, then in this shot, to suggest that this is sky, we can think of our focal points and put a little cloud down here on the left focal point and just leave it at that. If there's anything in this upper left corner, it might be that that's the silhouette of the tree up there. You can see some leaves or something just from the tree. And it's just a thumbnail, so you're not committed to it. Get the side of your pencil, just leave it like that. So this is another POV of farmer looking at Billy. You look at this shot, rub it down. So now he's looking down, he's a little bit more chagrined. And he's looking down. Head, line of action. Maybe his eyes are closed now. All right. So this would be the same camera as this one. So now that this other brother is standing up, head, line of action, and he's got a bundle of leaves on his shoulder as he's walking away. All right, in this shot, this is a cut, so dad can be a silhouette now. So now our camera can say head, line of action, shoulders, hat, and then this can all just be silhouette. Okay, get the idea of rubbing down? So you just go through your boards again, you just rub them down. You can go this really quickly. One way of doing all this is to just like think about your map and go, hey, you know what? This is scene 1. Everybody okay with that idea? So if I go back to our script here, as Billy goes home and packs and leaves, if we show that the inside of the house right here, if we show him packing and leaving and mom sending him off, this is scene 2. And this whole thing is scene 1. And as he walks, this can be scene 3. As he arrives, this could be scene 4. And as he gives a letter and lectures him and then draws, this is all scene 5. So a scene is an environment. A scene is this room. And the camera could go anywhere in the room that it would like. You have to pay attention to the 180-degree rule. That's one scene. Inside the scene are shots. Okay? A scene can be any number of shots. A scene can be one shot. But a scene is an environment. Okay? So let me do it this way. The actual order for you is that you have a film. A film is composed of sequences, and then scenes, and then shots. Again, from week 1, the ASL, average shot length, these days in 2022 equals about 3.5 seconds or less. In the olden days, it used to be 25, 35, 45 seconds. So it goes sequence, scenes, shots. In a feature film, you might have 10 sequences. And in the whole feature film, you might have 150 scenes. But in a feature film, which is about 160 minutes, you might have 2,500 shots. Okay, everyone got this idea? For us in storyboarding, we're probably never ever going to get to sequencing. It's just, you're going to keep your story short enough that you're not going to need it. So when I go back to my slug here, if you ever get to the point when you're doing slugging for a feature film, keep this in mind. So remember on my little demonstration of just the establishing shot. So this over here would be panel number 001. This would be shot 1. This would be 25 seconds. This in the camera direction, you just write establishing shot. And then in the upper middle, you write sequence 1. Now there's something that I didn't go over yet, and that's okay, because a lot of times you'll see storyboard templates that have lots of screen direction. And this is where, if you have doing a storyboard that has lots of dialogue going back and forth, you're going to write that dialogue in the story direction, back and forth. So you write that here, whatever it is. And you don't want to get too wordy for one story panel, because that means that you've got the camera stuck in time and space. But sequence in the middle upper, panel number in the upper left, shot number on the upper right. This is your slug on the lower right, and your direction, your screen direction on the lower left. Everyone okay? Again, we're probably never going to break out of sequencing. Just think of a feature film. You might have a dance sequence. You might have the chase sequence. In the Bond film, it starts out with a chase sequence. You have the murder sequence. Did you get the idea? Sequencing. Okay. All right, now I wanted to go over one more thing. And that is just a close-up view of a practical gesture, a gesture. All right, I just got a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to say the first thing that we draw is a head, and then the line of action. You can either draw the line of action as a curved line, or you can draw the line of action as a singular curve. Either one is fine. This is called a compound curve. This is a simple curve, but it's always the same. Head and a compound gesture, or a head and a simple, right? All right, so then what you're gonna do is you're gonna define where the shoulders are and where the hips are. As soon as you do this, you've determined how tall your character should be. As soon as you set the head, line of action, shoulders, hips, and feet, that defines how tall your character is. So if your character, if you know it is 7 heads tall, then your character should always be 7 heads tall. Head, line of action. This character is looking the other way, and their shoulders are like this. Shoulders and hips are always opposite of each other. Does anyone know what it is called in art? When the shoulders and hips are contrapposto, Italians. So your shoulders and hips are always opposite of each other. This character is looking this way. This character is looking this way. Head, line of action, shoulders, hips, and the feet. Still drawing in rhythm, in gesture. This is how you do your thumbnails. Right, so I'm giving you a little bit more detailed instruction on how to get the performance out of that character. If you need to, get out of your chair, pick up the box, chase your little brother around for a little while. Right? I mean, he deserved it anyway. He was looking through your books. Chase him around. Push him into the corner. Head, shoulder, head, line of action, shoulders. Many characters are bean shapes. Go through all your animation textbooks. Go through the link that I put in for Pinterest and really look at it. Most of those characters are not only just bean shaped, but they're pillow shaped. So they're wider than they are deep. And so this is a pillow. Draw your legs. Just get a line of action for the legs. Sometimes the line of action for the legs is a simple curve. Sometimes the line of action for the arms is a compound curve. Practice drawing these gestures just like this with simple geometry so that you're not erasing, you're just drawing quickly. This character, head, line of action, body. A simpler pose. Just get the feet in there. But what matters is the measurement, the rhythm, the power, the force. Head. Line of action. Shoulders, hips, legs. Ooh, that character's running. The faster you can draw the gesture, the better. Because gestures are gestural. Okay, does everyone understand? So this is a whole body form. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because as you draw it this way, without drawing in the story frame, please, because then when you put your story frame down, you can say, oh, this looks better. Do I want a close-up? Do I want a mid shot? Do I want a wide shot? Do I want an extreme close-up? Remember we talked about this in day one, our camera positions. So right here, this one, yeah, you can see this. So if I use this, this would be an extreme close-up, but this would be a close-up. If I used this one, that would be an extreme close-up, just the head and eyes. This would be a close-up. These are all close-ups. Then the belly up, this would be a mid shot right here. And then this is still like a mid shot. And if I use the whole thing, this is a wide shot. And then after that, there's a whole bunch of other technical definitions like two shots, Western shots. But for you, this helps you position your camera. For you, drawing your maps helps you organize where your cameras are so that you know you're going to go from camera one, which is, so in this map out here, this is camera one. And then in your thumbnails, that camera one started over here. So camera one went from position A to position B. There was a big camera move right here. And then positioning your camera on this map helps you draw what that camera sees, just like it does in our cafe shot. There's no difference. But make sure that every time you draw a storyboard, you either start by drawing the map or get your establishing shot working and then draw the map. Either one, you could go back and forth, but you have to have the map, especially when you start cutting. Okay? All right, I'm gonna stop recording.